In paradise there is a wonderful garden. Waking up, the hero found himself on a chair. And then he saw her. Someone said Kazami Ginta was killed because of an accident on the way to work. The girl asked if it was true. Before him stood a beautiful blue-eyed girl with light hair. He wanted to ask something, but the girl ahead of him, calling herself. She declared herself the goddess of life and death. The hero asked where he found himself. She explained that this is the place where the fate of the soul is decided after death. She looked at him with regret and gently said that he was no longer alive. He died. The hero suddenly exclaimed with delight that it is wonderful. The girl was in surprise, not understanding why he rejoices. She asked why he was so happy and whether he hit his head. The hero, smiling, replied that it means freedom from work. He asked if it was true. He loudly stated that he could now say goodbye to hard work and bosses. She nodded, asking not to shout so loudly because everyone was looking at them. Paradise whispered, looking around with delight. The hero asked if he reached Nirvana. Lotta confirmed. He asked her to wait and mentioned that she mentioned the rebirth in another world. Sleep was surprised to ask why he was. He replied that he had only one goal. He brazenly stated that if she did not fulfill his request, he felt her breasts. She faded, trying to keep peace, explained that she could not fulfill his desire just. She seriously added that if you send a person to another world at will, it will have serious consequences. Ginta shouted that he was indifferent, and again began to demand his chest. Swarfishly exclaimed that he was crazy. The hero saw the trop selection button and asked if it was her job. Lotta denied. He pressed the button. He said he should find her. She became angry, accusing him of stupidity. Ginta ordered her to stand still. She was accidentally coming on the button, and everything frozen in time. Before them appeared the characteristics of Kazami. The gear twisted. The mechanism worked. The hero exclaimed joyfully, and she whispered that it was impossible. He looked at the sky with surprise, where majestic dragons circled. His face was a joyful smile. The hero loudly stated that he finally got into another world. He did not feel reborn, but suggested that it may be reincarnation. He felt something under the heel. Lowering his gaze, he saw the exhausting goblin. Realizing that he was goblin, Kazami bounced from fright. And then he realized that he was already dead. He guessed that he apparently killed him when he fell from above. A pebble lay next to the goblin's hand. The hero lifted him and thought it was a silver stone. The stone turned out to be good, so he decided to save him. Kazami wondered that he was showing this condition of the condition, and thought that if the goddess was nearby, he could ask her. He smiled, thinking that his luck indicator would definitely be strange. Suddenly a cry heard, and the hero saw the donkey from above. Kazami asked if she could go back. Lotta replied that for some reason could not contact the celestial world, and it was very strange. She confessed that she could not see Kazami's status. The hero suggested that it was because of him. Lotta said she could not see his statuses, but the goddess would have that opportunity. He assumed that it could be an error. Sleep looked at him disrespect. She suddenly burst into tears, asking what was horror and how to come back. The hero tried to reassure her, saying that no one would think that it could happen. She screamed in anger that it was all his guilt, because through it she pressed the transmission. He looked at her confusedly, trying to understand how to comfort her. Kazami apologized and sincerely confessed that he did not want to involve her in this situation. He admitted that it was his fault. She wiped tears, looking at him with mixed feelings. She shook her head and said that nothing could be done. The hero sincerely asked that she was going to do next. Swallow replied that everything would be fine, and she was sure that help would come soon. She added that she would just kill time in anticipation. Then she asked if Kazami really got a chance to fulfill his dream, and advised him to do what she wanted. The hero thought for a moment. He carefully asked if she wanted to go with him. Lotta lifted her eyebrows in surprise. Kazami explained that once Miss the Goddess got into this mess through him, he wants to atone for his guilt and help her. They looked at. She asked if he was sure, and reminded that if he had left with her, she could accidentally pull him back to heaven when help came. The hero laughed and said that he would have to visit heaven. He resolutely stated that leaving the crying girl would be against his principles. Lotta looked at him in surprise, and denied that she did not cry. Lotta went closer, looked into his eyes, and said that if he insisted, she would go with him until help arrived. She smiled mysteriously, and said that she was wondering how he was going to compensate her with all the inconvenience. She officially joined the team. She asked his name again. The hero said he could call him just Gint. She said in surprise whether he was convinced of it, and added that he could then call her just a pity. She suddenly wondered what they were talking about before. Sleep said she would be near him for a short time. She added that Ginty was extremely lucky. The hero was surprised and asked why. He asked if it was so good. The girl blushed and indignantly exclaimed that it was not meant at all. Ginta smiled and noted that she had turned red, swallowed her gaze and explained that many people know her for services in this world. She proudly added that she knew everything from geography and nature to creatures that live in this world, including the smallest details. She gave an example, remembering a small town called Ho Hen, and suggested that they go there for the first task. Ginta was surprised by her knowledge, swallowed proudly, lifted her chin, and said that it was quite natural for the goddess. She added that he could ask her about everything she was interested in. The hero was surprised, but agreed. Ginta smiled cunningly and said that he had one question for the magic goddess Lada-chan, and it concerns the subject he found. She scattered dissatisfied, feeling that he would tease her. The hero stretched her silver stone and asked if she knew something about him. Swarfly took him in her hands and explained that it was a charming crystal called the core. She added that such crystals remain after monsters, and their rank can be determined by color. Ginta was surprised. Sleep stopped sharply and asked if he was joking. Then she suddenly shouted, seeing the silver, and said it was incredible. She demanded to know where he took it. Ginta explained that he had just found him near Goblin, who was accidentally killed. Lada lifted her eyebrows in surprise, hearing the word accidentally. He asked if the silver color was really so rare. Lada confirmed, explaining that among the core is the second highest rank after the rainbow, and then gold. She added that if you sell this crystal, you can get approximately 100,000 rin, equal to 100,000 yen. She praised Gint, noting that it was a wonderful find. The hero honestly confessed that despite her words, he does not feel great joy. He thought that he just accidentally found this stone, and should be grateful for his luck. Swallow explained that in order to find such a crystal, I would have to explore the dungeon for months. Ginta has been surprised to expand his eyes. She added that he was very fortunate to find him so accidentally, because in real life, he would never find 100,000 on the road. The hero agreed. Lada suggested leaving the core in his inventory just in case, and promised to teach him how to use it. Ginta asked what an inventory was. The town is located near the majestic mountains. Ginta noted that the place left a very positive impression. Sleep agreed, adding that the city was much lively than it expected. They were welcomed in the store. Ginta repeated with a smile on his face. 100,000 rines, as Lada said. The kind of this money made him happier. She was proudly stated that it was all thanks to her. The hero nodded, noting how good he had lifted that stone. She asked if he had something else to sell. Ginta replied that he had nothing more and joked that he had only pants. She suggested looking for a place for the night. Suddenly asked what he had just said. Ginta repeated that he suggested finding a night. At this point, they heard the woman begging a man to stop, calling him a sweetheart. She shouted that it was their money for the whole month. The man replied irritatedly to shut up, adding that he had to play only once. Ginta asked what was going on. The husband again called on the woman, and she begged him to stop. Sleep explained that it was the object of the hook. Gint did not understand. She said that it is a kind of arcade game. She explained that there are many valuables among the prizes, but most of them are ordinary junk. Ginta wondered if someone would win in this game at all. Lada confirmed that the winners exist, but the chances are extremely small. She added that you need to have great luck to win. Ginta smiled mysteriously. He thought that if luck is really on his side, he would definitely be able to win something valuable. They went inside the building. Lada asked if he was serious. The hero nodded in the affirmative, adding that he wanted to try only once. Ginta noticed that one attempt costs 1,000 rin. She scared that he could not spend money on such nonsense, because he would probably receive only some junk. The hero insisted that he wanted to try only once. However, the girl at the counter said that if he pays 10,000 rin, she would receive 11 attempts, and asked if he really wanted to limit himself to only one. Ginta thought that if his luck is as big as Lada said, one attempt would be sufficient to prove everything. He approached the car, turned the key, and from there the ball fell. His luck level showed $999,999. He opened the ball, and around everything was stripped of bright light. The hook workers were shocked. Sleep could not believe in what she saw. Ginta thought that if this status was not a simple mistake, people whispered around, discussing who this guy is. Swallowing stunned that it was a iris, the most rare of all. She even thought that she may dream of it all. It was a super prize of Levitan. Levitan was accepted. Ginta and Lotta rejoiced, because they got something really unique and cool. The man at the table was shocked, saying that he has been doing this for years. The other added that if he had this sword, he would easily defeat the hip himself. Swallow explained that the former hero defeated the king of demons with this sword. However, no one was able to use it after that, and he simply traveled to the world. She doubted that Jint would be able to capture this sword, but the hero said confidently that he could only be found by trying. He added that he would think of how to use the sword if the trials are unsuccessful. Sleep warned that thieves may appear after such a gain, so it is better to sell the sword. She believed that it was the smartest way to avoid dangers and leave the city safely. At this point, they approached the staff and thanked them for their patient expectations. Ginta thought and said it was the fastest way to raise your rank. Lotta noted that the risks are also quite high. The hero confidently replied that he was aware of the risks, because it is necessary to achieve his ambitions. Swarfly blushed. She strongly stated that Ginti would adapt to this world and teach him everything she knows. She proudly said that she has 999 level, and she is still the strongest goddess. Ginta looked at her in surprise. She asked what was wrong. He honestly confessed that he is very pleased to have such a strong ally, but her status is a little like Goblin, whom he faced earlier. Swallowed her cheeks indignantly. She could not understand why she was so affected by his words. Ginta suggested that this could be the result of forced teleportation. Swallow turned away on the bed and said insulted that she was no longer interesting. The hero realized that she was upset, and decided to give her time to calm down. He left the room when the administrator asked where he was going so late. Ginta replied that he just couldn't fall asleep. He thought about how difficult it is to calm down when a girl who no longer resembles a beetle is asleep in the next room. He decided to take a little walk to calm down and assured that he would return soon. The hero went outside. Walking in the quiet streets, he thought that now the perfect time to try Levitan. He also said that he would soon need to register in the guild. Suddenly, he noticed the guardian, Sleeper, and thought it was even for the better. Ginta decided that he found the perfect place to test. He opened his repository of things and got Levitan. The hero thought that the inventory in this world is an extremely comfortable thing. He carefully took the sword from the vagina. Looking at him, Ginta remembered the words that he could not use it. However, he felt confident now. He mentioned the abilities of this sword and decided to try dark fiber. The hero felt a little excitement because he didn't know how it was working, but wanted to check what the sword was capable of. Ginta aimed at a large black stone. He did not know exactly how to activate his ability, but was intrigued. Suddenly, a shining pattern appeared under the hero's feet. Wind streams twisted around it, forming magical symbols near the sword. Ginta was puzzled. The dark fiber, which turned out to be several times larger than it, suddenly rushed forward and hit the stone. The hero fell on his back from surprise. He noted in surprise that it was extremely easy. Ginta finally realized that he had just used real magic. Suddenly a loud rick was heard. Ginta tensed, noticing that where there was just a stone, something was moving. Something shone in the dark. Ginta looked and saw another nucleus. It was silver again. He thought that for the sale of this kernel, along with the corner and scales, it would be possible to get a good amount of money. Returning to the hotel, Jint felt incredible fatigue. His whole body was sluggish. He realized that he had spent too many mana on that magic. The hero smiled, thinking that at least he could sleep well. As soon as he entered, she was indignant with a resentment where he was gone. Tears shone in her eyes. Ginta replied that he just went out. She exploded with anger, asking why he left without saying anything, and forced her to worry. The hero scratched his back, apologized, and asked if something happened. Lava looked upset. She confessed that she thought, as if Ginta had left her and left alone. Ginta smiled and asked if it was really the cause of her tears. Sleep quickly turned away and denied that she did not cry. Ginta gave her, calling her a pox, which worried about him, and assured that he would never leave her. She was angry, insulting that she was not crying and asking him to stop her. She screamed indignantly, demanding that he ceases to tease her. Ginta just laughed and asked why she couldn't just accept it. Sleep with a serious expression of the face warned him so that he never went again without saying anything. Ginta nodded and asked her to stop pushing. But suddenly from her push, he lost his balance and fell on the bed, pulling his lucky behind him. They fell so that their lips met. Both froze from shock, their eyes were widely open, swarfied, like a cherry, and sharply bounced back. She quickly said that it was not what he thought, and the head ran out of the room. Ginta was left to sit, stunning her after her. The next morning, Gint was greeted calmly, wished Lottie good morning. She replied uncertainly that her memory seems a little hazy, and asked if something unusual happened when he returned. Ginta hesitated and offered her to wash first. She thoughtfully confessed that she did not know when she could return home, and added that, perhaps when Ginta helped her, she felt a little guilty. She proposed to discuss it later. Suddenly, she asked if he really won Hippo on his own. She could not believe it, noting that the hippos were extremely strong. The sleepy looked stunned. She saw a giant body in front of her and undoubtedly realized that it was a real hippo. Her face was surprised when she realized that Gint had not joked. Lotta asked how he was able to defeat the hippo. Kazami explained that he used the magic of the sword. He said that he initially protested the ability on a random stone, and something like a boom happened, and then he applied it against the monster. Swarm asked if he could really use Levitan. Ginta confidently replied that it was not a problem for him. The woman who worked in the guild was shocked by the fact that he was able to kill Ippo on his own. She said that in any case, the material evaluation report would help when they formally confirm the quest. The characters thanked her. Suddenly suggested buying Ginty new clothes. He asked in surprise why. She replied without hesitation that he was stinking like a burned piece of tissue. Ginta said she could have reported it before. She jokingly suggested making a real handsome man. Ginta, having sniffed his sleeve, realized that this smell was probably left after using magic. After dressing, the seller enthusiastically noted that new clothes fit perfectly for him. Ginta was surprised and asked what was style. She explained that this is a fashion trend among young people, the style of allies that has become popular lately. Ginta addressed the lands and asked how this image was. He confessed that he was able to wear something like this for the first time, and wanted to know if it looked strange. The pity hesitated a little with the answer, and the saleswoman asked her if Ginta was looking cool. Ginta imagined that Lotta probably thinks that his clothes can change a person, but in his case he still stinks a little. So, perhaps the problem is not in clothing, but in it. The hero revised his characteristics and saw HP plus 3000, MP plus 3000, ATK plus 2000, Int plus 3000, and 2 additional levels of magic. Swing, looking at these figures, she was not surprised, and said that everything she thought. She reminded that even just defeating the hippo was incredible. She then explained that his current status is 10 times higher than the normal characteristics of this sword. Ginta was staring at her in surprise. Lotta took the sword in her hands and once again reviewed his characteristics. The hero confirmed that he had really 10 times higher. She wondered why it happened. Ginta suggested that this could be associated with his luck. Swallows explained that luck usually does not affect the characteristics of the equipment. But given the absurd luck, it may be an exceptional case. Ginta asked what she was in mind. Lotta replied that it seems just bug. The hero said dissatisfied that he still does not understand anything. Ginta continued to deal with this phenomenon, trying to understand how everything works. Lotta suddenly suggested trying to knock something out for herself. Ginta asked if she was referring to the game. She nodded joyfully, saying that she looked at one thing yesterday. She pointed her finger on the house near the lake. Ginta asked that it was special. Lotta replied that it was extremely important. She stated that she did not want to rely on his suspicious power, and prove to him what the true power of the goddess is. 10 minutes passed, Swallowed screaming annoyed, demanding another chance. She insisted that another attempt, and she would definitely win something valuable. Ginta looked at her tired and asked if she realized what he was doing. He stressed that this was her 10th attempt, and she promised only one. At the same time, all her win was a continuous garbage. Salt proudly denied that it was not garbage, but prizes. It focusedly listed the achievements: 4 ordinary stones, 3 pieces of fabric, moss-covered, 2 sticks for drawing on the ground, and 3 used nasal scarves. Ginta just sighed and said it was a real junk. Ginta was suspicious, and asked if she was sure that it was not just housing. He asked her honestly if she became dependent on excitement. Sleep annoyedly replied that it was not true. He wondered what would happen if he won. Suddenly, the girl unexpectedly confessed that this house is near the lake. It was her home. Ginta lifted his eyebrows in surprise. She added that she had already provided his reaction. Ginta denied that he was not going to say anything at all, and asked if she was trying to look as if he were reading his thoughts. He carefully took her by his shoulders and said he would never say such cruel words. Then she suggested staying there together if she wanted it. She was surprised to be frozen, confused with such a turn, but eventually agreed. Ginta blushed and murmured that it sounds a little wrong. She nodded and said that it is normal to try once for beginners. Then she asked if he really wanted to get this house on the lake. Ginta replied confidently, "Of course." He said with a smile that he had already seen his goddess tried her luck. So now his time has come. He held out 1,000 rin and asked him to give him one attempt. The employee clarified whether he was confident in his decision. She crossed her fingers, hoping for his victory. Ginta just smiled self-confident and stated that he would definitely win. Sleep strongly told him to do everything possible and mint gold. Ginta replied that he would just knock the capsule. However, the girl continued to cheer him up, insisting that he should try his best. Meanwhile, the curl of the carriage on which they were traveling looked around and said they were terribly lucky. Yesterday this path was impassable because of the Bomotic dragon. Ginta asked, interested, if everything was safe now. Kucher nodded and explained that he had heard him killed. Ginta smiled mysteriously and asked Lada if she had just heard that conversation. Swallowing looked pale and looking worried from the carriage. Ginta asked what was with her. She tried to keep calm and said that everything was fine, just a little dizzy. She confessed that she had a strong nausea from riding in a van. Ginta suggested that she go and walk. At this time, another man in the city addressed someone, asking if he realized that he wanted to take his house. The man disrespectfully faded and stated that he was rolling in the house near the lake. He only pointed his finger on what really wanted to get. The stranger looked at Gint and asked if he really thought he could wear this item so openly and no one notice it. He added that maybe others and blind, but he is not. And if you sell this thing, they will receive a huge pile of money. The second man nodded, agreeing. One of the men brazenly grabbed his hand and boldly asked Gint that he was thinking about little girls, adding that it is very pretty and you can have fun with it. Another robber laughed and said that, no doubt, they would be able to have a good fun. One of the bandits said they just needed a house near the lake as the perfect place to escape from other people's eyes. He also noted that it would be a great place for entertainment with Latuda. Ginta looked at them gloomily and stated coldly that he categorically refuses to give away a house or a girl. He called them idiots. One of the robbers became angry, saying that the hero seems to be not worried about his own life. Kazami was surrounded, and he reached for his sword. Swarm shouted to be careful. One of the bandits mockingly asked if they should be afraid of this magic sword. The other has just waved, saying that he was an old junk, which cannot even normally be pulled out of the vagina, and that its only value is antique. In response, Jint pulled his sword silently. He waved sharply, activating the ability of ashes. The robbers shuddered without waiting for this effect. Ginta calmly said that the house and the gap would stay him. He strongly attacked. The earth around them began to crack, creating faults that went to the bandits. Ginta looked at Lata and asked if she was scared. She nodded honestly. He asked if she thought she would really be stolen. She confessed that yes. Ginta smiled and said that now she no longer need to worry, because everything is fine. She replied quietly that she was not crying. Ginta, looking at her, smiled and said that she did not confess to that. She turned away, suddenly remembering his words that both the house and she will remain. She lowered her gaze. Ginta tilted his head and asked what happened. Sky shook her head in silence and without releasing his hands whispered, "Thank you." Ginta suggested that she go on and promised to ask Kuker to go slower so that she would not be stuck again. She sighed and said that now, when he reminded her, she got bad again. She suddenly asked if this house was in such a distant place. Ginta replied that the old Kucher said so he should be here somewhere. She pointed her hand on the building in the distance, saying that there was also a lake nearby. Ginta was surprised. Inside the house was clean and spacious. Sunlight pleasantly illuminated the room. Lada was enthusiastically said that this place was really impressive. Ginta asked if she liked. She smiled and confessed that she always dreamed of such a house. Swallowed inhaled fresh air and said that the forest air was surprisingly clean. She looked out the window and froze. Ginta approached her, and they were both surprised by the landscape. It was something that in ordinary life they could not see so often. Ginta thoughtfully said that there is nothing like this in Japan. And then he jokingly added that it was a house with a bonus in the form of a neighbor dragon. Swing struck him on her shoulder and asked whether he considered it part of the house. At this point the dragon roared just on Lada. She screamed, lost her balance and fell on. She looked at Gintu frightened. She screamed to do something immediately. Ginta sighed, acknowledging that the situation was really problematic. He shrugged and said that, of course, it was more convenient to simply say, do something, but offered to look at the situation at first. Ginta quickly appreciated the characteristics of the dragon and saw that his level was 16. His own level was slightly higher, so he decided that he could do something. However, looking more closely, he realized that a creature was not an adult, but a baby. She was skeptical of what he had now if he considers himself a little higher. Ginta was a little discolored and replied that 18. She was asking again, not believing in her ears. She recalled him stunned that he was only reinvigorated yesterday, but had already reached the level 18 and he was defeated by the hippo. Ginta sighed guilty and said that he did not want to use the force against the baby's dragon. But he has no other way out. He cannot allow him to attack them. He had already prepared for battle, but suddenly noticed that the dragon had taken some strange pose. Ginta didn't understand what it means. The dragon suddenly made soft, uneven sounds. The hero leaned forward and asked what he said before apologizing, because he did not understand the language of dragons. However, looking into his eyes, Gint did not feel any hostility. It made him think. At this point, the voice was heard from above. She, looking from the second floor, asked if he had already lost. Ginta shouted in response, asking how she could say that in general, hiding up. She did not pay attention, and again asked what had happened. Ginta asked her to go down and look at herself. The gap went down, looked at the dragon and asked how it happened. Ginta replied that he did not know himself. She thoughtfully assumed that the baby may have taken his fire for his mother, as it was a fire dragon. Ginta was scattering dissatisfied, saying that it is unlikely that the reason is so dull. I was playing playfully what to do now. Ginta immediately realized that she already wanted to leave the dragon to himself. It even seemed to him that she was reminiscent of a child who asks to leave a kitten picked up on the street. After a short pause, he replied that he could leave him, at least until they find his family. She was surprised to ask if he was sure of it. Ginta sighed and said that there was now another problem. They had one bed. Sleep looked at him and confirmed that he was. Ginta decided to sleep on the couch in the living room. Sleep suddenly denied, saying that the bed was large enough, and they would be both problems. Ginta only looked at her, trying to realize her words. Swallow was unexpectedly interested in the fruits she saw. She recognized them and asked where he got them from. Ginta replied that he found them yesterday in the forest. He added that they seemed delicious to him, so he decided to take a little for her. The girl thoughtfully said it was a fairly simple name for the fruit. She then asked about their plans for today. Ginta said he wanted to return to the city of Hunan for a short time, sleeping her eyes, and asked if he wanted to try his luck again. Then she added that she would go with him. He immediately refused. Ginta explained that they completely forgot about one important thing. They need to confirm their report in the guild. She paused, and then realized that he was talking about the murder of a hippo. She asked if she realized that they should go to the guild. Ginta confidently confirmed. Lava said that in this case they needed to go as soon as possible. She remembered that they came here yesterday on the cart. However, if you walk, the road will take the south. Ginta sighed, and at that moment their new satellite, the dragon, made a short sound. Sleep was surprised to look at him, and then explained that he seems to complain about food. He ate some bushes, and now feels not very well. Ginta asked him to suffer a little more, as they almost approached the gate of the city. There was very little left. Ginta approached the gate of the city and asked the guards whether they could come for a short time. One of the guards was frightened that it was impossible. Kazami sighed and realized that it was probably because of his eyes, a dragon. He didn't even think of it before. Returning to the baby, he apologized to him, and asked to wait for them here. He asked Lotta whether the dragons understood human language, because this, judging from the size, was still very young. The hero and the Lotus walked the city street. Swallows explained that dragons are some of the most powerful monsters, and most people consider them the natural enemies of humanity. Kazami thought that this explained the reaction of the guards. He wondered that they may not have had to bring the dragon here when he suddenly heard a baby crying. Ginta asked Lotta if it was really a gambling room, and what a little girl is doing here. Lotta replied that they would not know until they ask. He approached the girl and asked what prize she wanted to get. She pointed to the mighty bow of Yoihi. Ginta looked at the onions in surprise. Ellie said her father was fighting with Hippo using this bow, but lost. At some point after defeat, the bow fell out of his hands, and later, many times changing the owners, got to the owner of this gambling hall. Ellie said she was looking for him for a very long time and finally found it. She was gently assured not to worry. Swing confidently stated that Ginta's brother, hinting at him, wins this bow for her on one attempt. Ellie opened her eyes wide and asked if it was true. Ginta immediately indignant that the girl gave away hope so quickly, and said that if he does not win, she would have to be responsible for it. She was crossing her hands and asked if he wanted to say that she couldn't do it. Ginta was just shining, calling her stupid, and confidently stated that they could believe that he had already won. The arcade owner joyfully congratulated them and said that the heroes came to her again today. She nodded and announced that she came behind the main prize. She solemnly stated that her goal was the super rare gold heart of Luke Yoihi. She added that she would take a revenge for yesterday's failure today. Ellie exclaimed enthusiastically that Lotta was a real cool sister, and Ginta lifted his eyebrows in surprise, realizing that she was also going to play. After a while, the sleepy sat with a completely broken look. She felt completely destroyed after a number of failures. Ginta was just sighed, wondering how so much in a row could be pulled out. Sleepy stated that something is wrong here, and this hook was exactly lost. Ginta was just crushing and suggested that she did not blame everything in a row. He confidently said he is playing now and she can just look. At that moment Lotta grabbed and screamed that she had the last capsule. Lotta pulled out her last capsule and received a lunar core R and a coupon for food for 2,000. She happily exclaimed that she finally received her first normal reward. Ginta, skeptical inspecting the machine, said he would prefer to play on a regular hook. He was told that this was a regular machine gun. Ginta sighed and noted that, obviously, this device is much larger than the one that stands nearby. Swallow explained that it was a special machine for those clients who had previously tried to deceive the institution. She thanked him politely for his understanding. Ginta was interested in clasping, suspecting that it was about him. Swallow turned to another girl, saying that it was time to put up and just go home. The second girl replied in surprise that she even felt a little guilty. Ginta thought it was at least better than getting a ban on visit. One of the employees of the gachi hall explained that this machine is filled with more than 5,000 empty capsules. Ginta said dissatisfied that there should at least be capsules with normal prizes. The girl confirmed that yes they were. Ginta smiled and said that he now had a good reason to play, and this time he just can't give up. One of the girls anxiously noted that she had a bad anticipation. Ellie was excitedly asked if she believed that Ginta's brother would be able to win. Swallowed confidently responded that if it depends on luck, he could definitely. However, Gint just smiled and said that it is unlikely that luck would be on his side for the second time in a row. Posia suspiciously asked what he was in mind. She quickly asked about the bow. Did he win it? Ginta shouted as if he had almost forgotten, and slightly smiling, stretched Ellie the same bow. Ellie was scratched if she was really the same legendary bow she was looking for. Ginta calmly replied that he was for her. Ellie accepted him with distrust, and looking closer, realized, this is really her father's bow. Ginta was surprised by her reaction, but I was immediately reminded that he should not be delayed. She reminded that the Khan was waiting for them, so they needed to return home as soon as possible. Ginta hesitated a little. He returned to the flight, grabbed her for his cheeks, and said that, in fact, they came not to play the hook, but to go to the guild. They were met by a guild worker. She apologized for the expectation and stretched the certificate. Carl Milan, an appointment officer, announced that the registration was completed. Ginta excitedly accepted the certificate and exclaimed that he is now officially an adventurer. Carla only sighed and advised to keep track of him. She looked at them and asked if they were representing the group that performed the quest. Ginta asked what another group. He and the Gap looked at, puzzled. Carl, ripening his eyebrows, exclaimed that they really did it alone? Carl shouted that a group of ranking B or higher, at least 40 people, was required to complete the task. The hero gave her the materials that had fallen after the murder of the hippo. The girl denied that it could be a real horn and claimed that there should be a mistake. The hero explained that he has a protocol of assessment of material values, and Charles noticed on him the signature of Madame Lin. She noted that this testifies to the authenticity of the materials, because Madame's reports are always accurate. Ginta realized that the store owner had a perfect reputation when suddenly realized that it should be Madame Lin. She asked how it could be that only one person was able to cope with the monster. The girl claimed that the murder of this monster among the monsters was almost impossible. The hero asked if this evidence was sufficient to receive the award for the task. The girl replied that there should be no problem with such a set of materials, though she doubted a little. She added that the task of the murder of a hippo is not funded by the guild, so the awards will be issued directly to the client, Mr. Wig Lyons. They were asked if Mr. Wig Lyons did not want to go with them to the nearest dungeon, where it is difficult only to. He replied that he did not even know, and she was sadly sitting on the floor. Lotta explained that the Lyons house is a famous Elfie family that lives in the forest north. She noted that the hero behaved as an idiot, and it was difficult for her to look at him. The hero asked what was wrong with her. The hero apologized, saying that he apparently scared her. Ellie added that these are their younger brothers and sisters traveling on a dragon, and it's very cool. Ginta thanked, asking if she lived here. The girl confirmed that her village is in the same forest, he thought, and Ellie and Lotta hugged gently. The hero asked the girl if she knew why her name is a lion. The clearing replied that yes, because he is their old man. She promised to take them to the village, knowing the local label, and soon they found themselves in the village of Lava family. The girl said that the elder lives in a home with a red roof, and she's about to go home to show her mother onions. The hero said goodbye. Ellie asked the hero to lean because she wanted to get something. He leaned in surprise, and she said that he could not do it. He stunnedly bent, and she gently explained that everything was normal, whispering thanks for his dad. She gently kissed him in the cheek. Ellie thanked her little brother and sister, and everyone was shocked. Then Ellie fled, singing a spring song. The hero stated with surprise that everything happened unexpectedly. Stone collided with Liefa and said that the hero was guilty of asking what it was for. He watched the Chang went to bed again, and soon met the old age of the group. The headman asked him if he was an adventurer, to which the hero replied, adding that he wanted to report the quest. Finally, the hero thanked for the acquaintance, and the elder of the village of Wygleens announced that he is now the head of this village. The village's elder looked closely at Gint and said they had already received an official report from the guild. Then he suggested talking about the reward. Swallow, interested in leaning towards him, asked what they would get. She suggested that the reward should be something expensive, perhaps with gold or even a mansion. The village head smiled and said that the destruction of the hippos was the ancient dream of their family, so he decided to give a very valuable thing to the one who would accomplish the task. He explained that the Lyons family met with this monster when it was devastating their hometown. Unfortunately, they were absolutely powerless. Many of their soldiers were killed, and among the victims was Ellie's father. Those who survived fled and settled in this village. That is why the elder decided that when a hero, capable of killing a hippos, he would be worthy of receiving their most valuable award. Wygig sighed and said that, unfortunately, they had once been destroyed. But they could not just stand aside, fearing the future. That is why they were counting on Gint. He praised Gint as a great adventurer who was able to defeat the hippo, and hinted that his genes could make their family even stronger. Swallowing sharply read and indignantly exclaimed. Ginta twisted and asked why the old man decided that he would just agree. The man replied that Kin seems to have been interested in him, so there were no problems. The cinema, who was sitting nearby, blushed and asked her father not to embarrass her. The elder solemnly addressed Ginta, asking him to take care of his daughter. Ginta agreed in confusion, not knowing what to answer. At this point, tears appeared in the eyes. Kin, trying to hide her embarrassment, said that she was his future wife, so there was no point in being so official. Lotta looked at them. Ginta, trying to change the topic, joked that his mom would be better about this issue. Kin was surprised. Mother-in-law? Swallowing instantly became angry. Ginta sighed and asked what time everyone began to decide everything for him. The elder just smiled and said that the initiative should come from the hero himself. Ginta said, dissatisfied, that it was not what he meant. He added that they are now one team, so it is important to just try to understand. Kin, though upset, agreed. Ginta wanted to say something else, but suddenly he was loud in his stomach. He sighed and acknowledged that he had not eaten anything except pano in the morning. She was sympathetically asked if he was hungry. Cinema suddenly smiled and said that they were feeding the owner. Some of the villagers said there is one popular meat restaurant and they can visit there. Cinema winked Lottie and jokingly said that if they eat a little of this meat, Jint would grow even more. Swallowed and asked why her eyes looked so dead now. Ginta just laughed, knowing that their journey was just beginning. Both girls turned to Ginta at the same time. He just laughed and said he did not mind to eat meat. Then he turned to the lace, asking her to take the way. She was glad and gladly replied that she would gladly show them a beautiful place. Ginta noticed that Lotta was too silent and jokingly said that it was an unusual sight. At that moment, the daughter of old age approached him and whispered that she may have wanted to be fed. Ginta looked at the goddess in surprise and asked if it was true, adding that she could just say it directly. Swallowed indignantly, having exclaimed that it was not at all and why she was. During the dinner, Ginta mentioned that the elves live much longer than people and grow slower, so although Quinn looks young, she can actually be much more than years. Spring suddenly fell silent, noticing the eerie expression of Quinny's face, but in a cold tone, she asked if she wanted to add something. The goddess quickly waved, saying that no, nothing. Just the meat here is delicious. Ginta thought he had found the first explosive mine to be avoided. Later, Anna, the secretary of the Guild of Adventures of Luguro, reminded Ginti that he was still on the lowest rank, G, so it would not be easy to find the appropriate quests for him. Ginta sighed and replied that it was boring, but he knew about it. He wondered if the murder of the hippo was counted as an achievement. Anna confirmed that yes, but according to the rules, at least 10 quests must be performed to increase the rank. Ginta asked if there was a task where he could test his power in battle. Anna replied that there is one quest from the trading guild. He decided to take this task for 3. Ginta quietly asked Lotta if her strength had already resumed. She denied. The hero reassured her, saying that the quest was not too complicated. Quinva smiled and said it was good if Ginta thought. She noted that he was extremely caring for. Ginta was discontinuing and replied that it was not quite true. Queen jokingly suggested that they prepare for the battle on their own. Ginta asked if they were ready. He was surprised when he saw that they got into some lottery again. Quinva made her choice and hit. She said it was the perfect item for the field, which is not able to do anything yet. It was a rod of a clergyman. She looked at him skeptically and noticed that it was good in words. But does Quinn really think that everything is so easy? Quine replied that in this world you can get such things for free, and how comfortable there are stores. Ginta thought that she reminded him of someone. She was indignant, saying that Quinva knew absolutely nothing about this harsh world and looks naive and simple. Quinva just shrugged and noted that someone is clearly not happy today. Ginta laughed and said that life and luck were the same thing, but having gone to the field it would certainly come to shit. She was angry and screamed that he would not say it. Other participants of the expedition turned to Ginta, but he just waved his hand and said that they would understand themselves. The elfish proudly stated that she would soon turn this money into a whole mountain of treasure, and advised to simply watch. Ginta agreed. He said that at least there is not all the garbage here, and compared to Latuta, Quinn is a real child of luck. Queen asked if she was really lucky. Ginta smiled cunningly and said that she just waited a little, and she would see everything. Swallowing angrily turned to him, but in a moment, everyone fell silent. Sleep stood, squeezing a creepy cursed doll. She called Ginto scared to help. He, seeing it, exclaimed, "What the hell here happens?" The hook again played with a scaffolding a bad joke. If she just was not happy before, then she pulled something with a minus good luck. She said in a trembling voice that if she did not get rid of this doll for 7 days, it would be damned. Queenie leaned forward and thought sarcastically, "That's great what she did this time." Ginta shouted Lottie to run away from here and stay away from him, because he did not need a doll. She looked at him angrily and stated that until Ginta did anything vulgar, she was normally treated. But suddenly she noticed something strange and asked what the elf girl was doing. Quinva calmly climbed on Ginta's bed and said that her mattress was a little dusty, so she would sleep here. Ginta froze with surprise, swung sharply to Quinva and called her shameless, ordering to get out of Ginta's bed immediately. Quinva just lifted his eyebrows, pretending that she did not understand what she was talking about. Lada was shocked. She asked if they were going to do it right here. She meant from what time they became an official couple, and in general, what if the hippoical is won by a woman? Quinn was already pulling her dress, but here Ginta jumped out of the room, saying that he would go to check how his dragon's eyes-chan is there, because he probably had already suggested. She shouted after him, asking why suddenly right now. Quinn calmed down and said that it may have been just another city legend. At this point, someone else approached them. One of the locals said that before going, they should find the appropriate armor. The girl nodded, agreeing that safety was first and foremost. Ginta, noticing Lada, asked if she had already got rid of that spooky doll. She shook her head sadly. She sighed and said that no one wanted to take this doll. Ginta replied sarcastically that apparently, if so went on, someone would take her with this doll. He then showed that he won the rod in the lottery. He suggested that it may be possible to remove the curse. She thought and said it was a good idea. Taking the rod, she went to the doll. She focused and turned to the purifying light, urging him to show her covenant. Ginta looked at her for a moment, and he even seemed to be reminiscent of the goddess at that moment. She activated the restoration, and everything around was light. The damn doll lost its sinister look and turned into a regular but surprisingly good toy. Swarfy sighed with relief and fell to the ground, exhausted. Ginta approached and said she had a great manner. He thought that it seemed to be beginning to find himself. It can be good support for the team, and their detachment becomes more balanced. Quinus suddenly reminded that she had a spare mantle and asked if she could give it to Lottie. Ginta shrugged and said that if she wanted, of course, but then he asked if she needed herself. Quinu smiled and said that she was afraid that her sleeves would be too large and the cut too tight. Lada looked at her confusedly. Ginta felt it a hint of something but decided to remain silent. Quinn laughed and said that Gint was looking too carefully, and it confused her. Ginta apologized, and she replied that everything was fine, but asked not to do it among the crowd. She smiled cunningly and said that he could look at the hotel as much as he wanted. Ginta asked in the goddess if she finished dressing. She nodded affirmatively, adding that she was ready for the exit. Quinn came closer, evaluating her new look. Ginta, seeing the goddess in new clothes, smiled and said that it looks great. Quinn agreed, noting that she was fitting. Slide a little nervously corrected the outfit, and asked if the skirt was not too short and whether her navel was visible. She came closer to Ginta, asking his opinion. He thought for a moment, and then said that these clothes were really looking for her. Ginta added that she looks very cute in this style. She blushed, but nodded satisfied, saying that she would keep this outfit. The hero returned to business again and suggested that there are several more goblins. The girls willingly agreed. They arrived in Fanweli, and he called Hei-chan loudly. However, the dragon did not answer. She was concerned about it that she may have got bored, and she returned to the woods to the house near the lake. Ginta also began to think about where the Hei-chan could go. At this point, Quinn pointed her finger on something. Before them was a group of goblins that attacked the dragon. She looked alarmed at Gint. He only cold replied that he knew. Then he told the girls to wait, because now he will help Hei-chan. The dragon looked seriously at the goblins and then exhaled the flames powerfully, starting the battle. In the end, goblins were defeated. Ginta was surprised to think that the dragons were really extremely strong. He approached Hei-chan and asked if everything was fine with her. The dragon nodded. Sleep, looking at her, noted that although she was still small, she still remains a dragon. Ginta said they should collect magic stones that have fallen from the goblins. They counted 10 pieces. He said that this half of the quest was already fulfilled, praising the Hei-chan. He added that they may be able to quickly collect the rest if there are still goblins nearby. At this point he heard a cry. They saw that 3 men with a cart surrounded Goblin. One of the men frightened that they were bloody goblins, and for the next moment the monsters rushed into the attack. One of the goblins jumped and waved his weapon, hitting one of the men. The air pierced a sharp blow, and in a second the goblin's body was cut. It was Ginta. He jumped forward, causing a powerful blow. The earth under it trembled, covered with faults. The rest of the goblins were frightened and rushed, but arrows flew into them. One of the men exclaimed who was shooting. It was a quinine. She used wind arrows. Lotta approached them and a little upset that she seemed to be a little late. At this point, several goblins climbed into the wagon, trying to steal the product. One of the merchants shouted desperately, ordering them to stop, because it is an expensive cargo. She jumped instantly, trying to hide him with a cane, but he reacted with a shield. In her eyes, the surprise flashed. He smiled. But suddenly he was scared. There was a dragon behind the girl. Blot turned to Hyo-chan, but he just quarreled. She breathed deeply and began to use the dragon's breath. The hobbies in the panic retreated. Ginta smirned. "It's bad." "Stop," he shouted. "You burn their goods." He apologized to her, but the summer had noticed goblins. "They run away," she exclaimed. "I will not allow them to escape," Quinn said firmly. "Wait, don't shoot," the hero intervened. "Are you sure?" she asked. Everyone understood that goblins should have a hiding place. If they follow them, then the whole nest will sweep. Alpha smiled cunningly. It was such a decision that expected Mr. Ginta. They turned to Liafi and Hihan, offering to end it. Both nodded silently. 3 men looked at surprise. "Who are they?" The goblins disappeared in the forest. Swept out. It meant that their nest was here. "A spooky place," Quinna muttered. "And the forest is big," the hero added. He stared at the cart and scattered cargo. Did it all belong to the merchants who were attacked? "Ginta, carefully," Quinna warned him sharply. He instinctively bounced, and the spear was stuck directly into the ground, almost touching his leg. The heroes were goblins. Ginta noted that they appeared unexpectedly, without noise, and something was too high. "Be careful," he warned. "They are more dangerous than it seems. Liat, support us from behind. If someone is injured, use medical magic immediately, but don't worry, just relax," the hero ordered. Queenie instructed first to protect the lot, and to help him only when needed. "I understand," she nodded. "It's not easy, but I'm counting on you," he added. Then he addressed the 11th Chan. "Just watch," she scolded. "Sorry," he sighed. "Then just crack everything around." "The battle begins!" he exclaimed, calling Uichan forward. Ginta and Dragon fought with goblins. Lai was quietly watching, almost relaxing until Goblin noticed near her. She shouted, instinctively closing her head with her hands. But the enemy was already dead. Surprised, she looked around. "You should not open your mouth, princesses," Queenva roamed. Meanwhile, the goddess shouted something else. "What happened?" asked the hero, looking at the goblins. "You are too weak." He looked at the eyes. "What is there?" he asked. In response, the tree slowly revealed someone whose claws glittered in the shade. They came to them a huge goblin commander. Ginta felt. "It seems serious things." Alpha raised his hand and released a signal to the sky, causing reinforcements. Goblin did not even shudder at the blow. She stopped confusedly. The hero remembered the magic of Quinna, who could not touch him. Is he invulnerable? Liat remembered the legends. It's Durid's armor. Quinna inadvertently whispered, "Is it made of iron balsa?" The hero felt that these special things leave him out of the game. "Good armor," the elves admitted. "He probably took it from the merchants," Lytus suggested. Ginta squeezed his sword. "Retails," Quinna advised. "These goblins are armed too well." She was shocked by their power. He stood among the defeated enemies. "Sorry, Queen," he said. "Today I wanted to destroy this nest so that they no longer threaten the roads." She raised her eyebrows in surprise. Leda asked quietly, "Did you forget that he won Hippo?" "The monsters are more dangerous than the hippo. There is nothing to worry about," Quinna replied calmly. LFS nodded. "Of course. Am I quite useless?" she asked. The goddess just shrugged. "If no one was injured, then you are not needed." Ginta cuts them sharply. "Enough. I could fight calmly only because you covered me. I walked forward because it was my role, and because I didn't want to put you in danger." The girls fell silent, shocked by his words. She came closer and hugged him. "You appreciate me so," whispered Quinn. "From now on, I will follow you at least to the edge of the world." The summer smiled. "Then I will also make every effort to hurt as much as possible." The hero sighed. "I don't want to suffer." The girls suggested to go ahead to make the road safer. He looked dissatisfied, but Ginta agreed. "Don't relax," he warned. "We do not know what is waiting in front. She did not take advantage of healing and asked if Ichans had something hurt. He just smiled happy. "You're a wonderful healer," Ginta praised her. "I'm a goddess," Tower replied proudly. "It is unlikely," he threw it skeptically. He apologized to Hidai-chan for making her join them. "When we return, I will buy you many flavors." She licked him joyfully. "Enough, enough," he waved. The poured saliva, the hero sighed. "Maybe someone has a handkerchief or a towel?" Lisa smiled cunningly. "Do you definitely not go?" They went out to the lawn. Ginta looked around. "It is spacious here. Is this the deepest part of the forest?" "Something is wrong here," Winter muttered. "Do you feel?" Ginta asked again. One of them replied, "There is some tense atmosphere here." "I have a bad anticipation," she said. Suddenly the trees were noisy. Everyone froze with fear. A huge king of goblin appeared in front of them. He roared so that the earth trembled. "Get back!" cried Leaky. The hero looked up in a panic. "He is huge! It's just horror!" Goblin waved his sword, shaking the ground. Kitian got a powerful blow. She flew back. "Kitian," said Jint. She landed hard. The girls shouted, and in the meantime, Goblin was already behind the backs of the heroes. His sword flew straight to Ginta's head. Ginta sharply evaded and lightly cut his sword. The cut off a piece of departed sideways. Goblin was frozen in surprise. The girls looked puzzled. Under the feet of the hero began to appear bizarre signs. He focused on the bloody goblin. A giant blood ball went forward, breaking the ground. Goblin yelled. Ginta asked how he dared to hit the Hiei-chan, and instantly caused a powerful attack, as if challenged by the laws of nature. Leita said with delight, "What a huge magical power." Kukina added that it was really strange. The hero said that she was restraining, because the weak black flames flicker all over the lawn, fascinating everyone. 3 heroes were lying on the ground. Lada noted that Ginta had restrained his strength. There was no trace of blood from Goblin. He apologized, and Cohen wondered if everything was fine with the vat. Ginta, I am sure he survived the blow, added that it seems that he is hiding somewhere nearby. They immediately started looking for him. The hero said he was strange. In his opinion, he should be here somewhere here. But she firmly stated that he was not visible anywhere. Someone asked if they were really looking for something. Ginta explained that in search of Hugh Ichan. Suddenly, one girl exclaimed loudly, "I'm here!" And the hero turned in surprise. A cheerful girl appeared in front of them. The hero, a little interested, asked, "Who are you and why you call me a master?" She immediately rushed into his arms, as if waiting for a long time. She made a sound similar to the roar of the dragon, and stated that she was. Ginta confirmed, "You are truly right, Vat," leaving everyone in a good surprise. The hero noticed that she had horns and wings. Queen noted that she is incredibly similar to Hai Ikan. "So it's really Chi-chan," said the hero, and the girl answered gently that she felt it. "How did it happen?" he asked. Tao sighed and said she didn't know herself. It all started when she was thrown here, and strange water got into her mouth. She confessed that she did not realize how she became all. Ginta replied that it was clear, although in fact no one understood anything. "Are you really?" he asked in surprise, but she warned the gap. "Don't look like this." He looked at the Heiei-chan and handed her a mantle, but she sighed. "It is so difficult to move with her." The goddess apologized and promised that she would find something more convenient for her later. The hero pulled out a bottle of potion and asked, "Is that what you drink?" The girl confirmed. Kinva, leaning in surprise, asked, "What is it?" He replied that he did not know exactly, and carefully took the potion out of the box, which was almost gone. "Probably these potions were stolen," he said, "because they have the effect of metamorphosis, turning monsters into people." She was carefully asked by the Hien-chan, "Are you not painting anywhere? How do you feel?" She touched her head, lifted the robe and looked carefully at her response. The hero looked at her and said, "You look great." Ginta added that they understood, and gently asked, "Cover better." It was proposed to look around first. Swallowed Gentasis. He agreed that this is a good idea, and maybe they would find a potion that would bring it back to normal. He also suggested that as they won the ringleader, it was necessary to return to the city first and report. The characters were in the city. They poured a huge amount of nuclear weapons in front of the old. He looked at them in surprise and asked if he was worth evaluating them. He asked how many nuclei were there. Ginta replied that they needed a 20-core report and may buy a few more. The old man nodded and said he needed a little time. He wrote something on paper with a pen, and the girl watched carefully. He asked if she had never seen a pen before. She confirmed and said it was a strange and interesting thing. The old man laughed, calling her a strange child. Then he got a stone and asked what it was. He noted that ordinary stones occurred among the nuclei. The hero was surprised and apologized. He wondered what he picked up in the woods after the battle with King Goblin. He believed that it was Goblin's core, but obviously it was something else. He decided to ask about this later. Then he noticed that Leda and Quinn had disappeared somewhere, and asked where they went. The old man replied that if he was referring to those girls, then they went to the children's clothing department. The girl, who was called Haicheng, stood in the middle of the store. They offered her to look at the chosen clothes and try something. It was puzzled. The girl screamed that she did not want to and asked indignantly what they were doing. She called the owner. However, she was stopped, assured that she would like it. She was dressed on a dress. Lieta was enthusiastically said she looks very cute. Quinn said she looked like a doll. She changed a few more outfits. The girls said she was looking charming and everything, though it has already started to annoy her. When she was wearing a dragon suit, she was at all numb. She said again she was sweet. Quinn suggested trying something else. The girl began to pray someone to save her. She came to the master in her new dress and complained that the Quinva and the Pity were mocked. Ginta asked if the dress was really the smallest of evil for her. She said that they had endlessly forced her to dress. He just sighed and assured that they wanted nothing wrong and asked them to forgive them. He said Hot-chan is so sweet that they just couldn't stay. The girl just turned away. Ginta smiled and noted that she looks like a real princess of the dragon country. Jua-chan shone with joy. She suddenly jumped on him. Ginta, a little embarrassed, said he wanted to buy these clothes. The seller said the rent would cost $4,800. They walked the street, and the hero felt that he was not leaving a strange feeling. He noted that it was only necessary to report to the shop, and the task would be completed. She said it was easy and easy. Queen asked why she was so excited. They continued to go the street. Hei-chan looked surprised. She said there are so many things she had never seen before. The hero noted that she seems to be a lot of fun. She replied that she wanted to just walk the city at least once. The girl shared that she was always waiting for them at home, and that now she was happy to be near her master. Quinn said she was probably alone. Lieta confessed that they did not even think about her feelings. Suddenly, the girl struck her stomach. She said that she was very hungry, although she had not felt like this before. Ginta, smiling, said that he was also hungry, and suggested to find something at first. He asked Lai Tian what she wanted to eat. She asked in surprise. He assured that they would buy everything she wants. The girl thought. Chan said she wanted to eat Goblin. Everyone looked at her. The hero asked her to choose something else. She reminded that he himself said that he would buy her anything. He just sighed and apologized. The characters stopped at the hotel. Ginta Zniakov reported that only one room is free again. Lada said that this was not the problem. Hai-chan noted that there were only 3 beds. Kukina immediately answered that this is a real problem, but she has a great idea. She offered to sleep with Ginta-san. She just rolled her eyes and said she knew. She replied that nothing was wrong if she was sleeping with the Chi-chan. The elf girl was indignant that she was unfair, because she also wants to sleep with the Chi-chan. Lada stated that the girl belongs only to her. Diana asked who decided it. She was surprised why Chan would have to sleep with her at all. The girl replied that she was most comfortable with the master. Lisa exclaimed in an exclaiming that it was quite different, and demanded that Quinas immediately release the girl's hand. She turned to the Hei-chans, noting that there are pineapples here. Quinn said that buying them with food is unfair. The Hei-chan could not stand and shouted loudly to stop everyone. The girls stopped instantly. She stated that she had a great idea. All together went with Jinta, and the girl with a smile said that this is the perfect solution. The hero was indignant loudly that he would not be able to sleep so. In guild, Anna thanked Kazami. She noted that she did not expect it to destroy the whole goblin's nest, and now they would no longer worry the city. He confirmed that everything was that way, and said he was glad to help. She added that they really helped them. The girls looked at her clearly. She thought it seems to be Ginty when they talk to him, and that Anna frankly flirts. The hero translated the conversation to another, and said they received the award, and then asked what would be done next. He suggested going to dine. It came to him. She played playfully first look at the store. He addressed Anna to the question of whether she had recommendations on the next task. She shouted dissatisfied so that he did not ignore her. One of the guild workers asked what they were thinking about a new task. The hero became interested in the quest in finding a person, but was shocked when he saw that the reward for him was a whole million. Anna explained that at first the reward was much smaller, but since the person could not be found for half a year, the amount was significantly increased. Queen noted that they probably really want to find it. Anna confirmed that it looks like that. She said that the company that finances this search was supported by Mr. B. Ling, who was engaged in the study of some drug. She explained that after that he just took and disappeared with all the materials of the study. Ginta briefly summed up that he just fled. Lotta suggested to take up this quest. He agreed, but noted that finding a person who disappeared half a year ago would not be easy. Quinn said that something smells like suspicious. She was asked what she implies. She replied that if he just disappeared, where the results of his research went. Lotta noted that they could not miss this quest. Everyone looked at her in surprise. Ginta agreed and said that one could not just take an escape, so they take this quest. Lisa repeated his words as if checking them for content. He looked at Mr. Klane's image and noted that he looks like an ordinary uncle. Then Anna asked if there was some information. Anna apologized and replied that it was all that she had. The hero had already thought that it was a waste of time, and suddenly, Ichan looked at the picture. She said she knew him and explained that this man was living near the host house. Ginta said if she was sure. She nodded affirmatively. They went in a carriage. Queen asked if it was the same man. The girl replied that she could not be wrong. She said that he often came to the forest and brought her pineapples. She also remembered that a few days before the master came into the woods, this man suddenly left. Ginta began to think about what it could mean. He said that Mr. Lin lived there for half a year, and a few days ago disappeared. At that moment, she was lying on her knees and tried not to snatch. Ginta asked Hei-chan if she knew where he could go. She replied that no. Then he suggested looking at the house. Maybe there were some traces. Queen noted that because he went only a few days ago, the house should definitely stay. They entered the house. Quinn said with a smile that was their home with Mr. Gina. Swallowed angrily. She reminded that she also lives here. Hei-chan quietly asked herself if she was her home. The hero stroked her on his head and said that of course it was her home. He wondered how much time she lives in this forest. The girl replied that she didn't even remember. The goddess asked if she had mom and dad. Ichan's thought. She was asked if she wanted to sleep. She apologized and replied that she could take a little nap. Looking at her, everyone noticed that she had already fallen asleep. Someone thought what she was sweet. The house found a cabinet with books. Quinn came to Ginta. He watched the records and said it was a diary. The girl asked if there was something that could give a hint. He nodded. The hero suggested that the records carefully read to understand what happened. Quinu asked if this means that the company simply closed Mr. Rin in a research laboratory and forced him to work on this drug. He confirmed that according to the diary, this drug should have been a powerful anesthetic that acted even on monsters. It was also said that the company prepared monsters for testing, and even seized a female of the fire dragon on the mountain Nara with its egg. The hero thought and said that he was a Chichan and her mother. Queen asked if this was the case. Ginta explained that at that time, Ichans were still in the egg, so they could not experiment on her. But her mother was really used as a subject. He noted that according to records, during her research, she was stunned by a huge number of drugs. It was awful, so Mr. Rhine, who categorically did not support the company's actions, decided to do something. He stole the finished preparation with the egg and fled from the laboratory. LFE is asked if he was living in this place and took care of the Chichan. Ginta confirmed. He had to tell something else. He said that Mr. Rhine learned about the search and, fearing the exposition, left the house. They went into the woods from the Ichans. The hero noted that it was the last record in the diary. It was made about 2 weeks ago. He noted that the execution of this quest will only mean one thing. They will give Mr. Rhine to the company. Ginta said he could not betray a good person who helped Hei-chan escaped. Kukina asked if he planned to give up the quest. He apologized, but replied that he couldn't do it. However, the girl denied. She said she was feeling the same as he. She thanked her for her baby, apologized for her recent behavior, and asked how she could thank them. The hero was going to answer when they suddenly heard a strange sound. The girl asked what it was. Ginta said the sound was coming from the first floor. Someone suggested that these are the people of the company who wanted to steal Hira-chan. The hero strongly stated that he would not allow it. They saw Hei-chan's in life. Ginta shouted loudly to them. The goddess sat on top of the Heichens, who was again in her dragon form. All were stunned. Lisa said she would explain everything now. She said that at first she just sat in the girl's arms, and the next moment she had already found herself on her back. She added that she was not sure whether everyone was understood. The hero replied that everything was obvious. The action of the drug disappeared, and the Heichen again turned into a dragon. On the street, he took out the dragon from his subpara. Inter noted that Ginta seems to be able to fit anything in his subprost. Quina said it was great, because they didn't have to destroy the walls to pull it out. Leda Ray read the diary and said that everything was clear now. She was so stunned by the reward that she completely forgot about the main thing. It turned out that the whole business was related to her father's company. She noted that they really had a terrible reputation, because they were selling weapons and slaves. The girl agreed that the quest should be abandoned. She also asked what she would be with the Haiyan Chan's mother. Bayat said that in Mr. Rhine's diary it was mentioned that she was put on a ship near the mountain, standing above the river. The girl stated that if it is true, then she wants to help. She wants to meet her mother again. Вона хотіла попросити Джинту про щось, але здивувалася, коли помітила, що вся команда вже була далеко попереду. The hero shouted to her, asking that she had forgotten there, and called her to go sooner. She asked where they were going. He replied that Nair Mountain and where else. Everyone confirmed that they were going to save the Haichan mother. He asked if she was going to stay here. Leda only briefly responded. She asked Gint if he was sure of his decision. He lifted her in his arms. She asked him to be gentle and not behave so roughly. The hero thought that it was only a matter of time when the Qian Chan would go to Nair Mountain. He told her not to delay, and she shouted directly into his inventory. Because he could not put all three there, he decided to leave Laugh there. The girl was scratching that she asked to be tender, and he behaved like a fool. She disappeared from her eyes. Ginta only sighed and said that he was over. He mentally apologized to her, but the Haiyan Chan just couldn't put everyone at once. Quinn said she was even a little sorry for her. The girl joked that you would not do anything because she lost her paper scissors. The hero suggested to move as soon as possible, so as not to force the Leda to wait. Elphys noted that she looks like a 4-year-old baby, but suddenly something made Gint be surprised. He noticed that the number of pano in inventory had decreased, and immediately thought that she was eating them. He shouted loudly to stop eating a supplier, which he left for an emergency. Of the 10 pano, only 7 remained. He noted that at such a speed, the stocks would end soon, so you need to hurry. Quinn replied that she understands his concern. They continued their way. The hero noted that they had overcome a considerable distance, and asked if Quinn knew the locality in which they were now. She answered negatively, saying that the direction is correct, but she does not know the details. He expressed doubts that Layoff's brothers were a good idea. Quinn pointed to the mountain and asked if she was really. He nodded affirmatively, confirming that it was the same mountain. Ginta noted that it is already darkened, so they will stop here for the night and continue climbing at dawn. He stressed that everyone needs to rest before the decisive part of the trip. Elphys agreed that it was a reasonable decision. The hero hoped that Lotta did not eat all the pano and opened the inventory. He advanced his hand to pull it out and already started to deliver. The girl screamed indignantly, demanding that he did not pull her so roughly and delay. He suddenly pulled something like a skirt. Looking down, he saw a goddess who painfully moaned. She lay on the ground without a skirt. Ginta immediately blushed. Quinas said sarcastically that he should not insist so, and if he wanted it so much, he can simply remove the rest of his clothes. He replied embarrassed that he did not think about it at all. He returned to Liefa and explained in confusion that he did not realize that it was her skirt. She demanded that he immediately returned her. The team laid out the campfire. The goddess thoughtfully said that they went so far, and asked if they really found Mom Hei-chan on this mountain. Ninja replied that it would probably be. He explained that it could be understood by just looking at her eyes. She continued to look at the mountain, or for a moment without distractions. He noted that she did not even respond to their conversation. Kukina suggested that she may feel her mother aura. They asked her to wait a little, and assured that they would do their best to help them meet. The man asked if they found Ryan Friedman. The kneeling person nodded and apologized. Acello, the old daddy warden, said he had no other choice, and he will soon have to see him. He also noted that even the prototypes that remained in the laboratory were stolen by goblins during transportation. He said they could make a huge profit by selling these prototypes with the control of the monsters. But first, we need to solve the problem with the fire dragon. Ocello noted that the experiments weakened the dragon somewhat, but it still remained valuable. He then entrusted the situation of Meldy, known as Man in Black Clothes. The Ginta team continued to climb the mountain. The hero noted that the slope is quite steep, and he had the feeling that he was rising up without end. He complained that he no longer feels his feet. Quinn warned, "Be careful, because a dangerous rock is waiting for them." Someone compared the rise to life, adding a strange joke about the breast. The girl immediately indignant and screamed, asking who he was allegedly breasts. She assured that they may not be big, but she still has. The Elphaean skeptically noticed that there was no point in lying. At this point, the hero noticed something important. He noted that there are two figures behind the lattice. He asked if they were really. Queen noted that it is strange that no security was visible nearby. The character stood in front of a huge cage looking inside. She was their mother, Hien-chan. Hien-chan asked who the woman was. Ginta replied that she was her mother. The girl carefully returned to her. The mother slowly raised her head. The bodice asked what was wrong with her. Elphaswari said that something was clear here. The hero hesitated for a moment. He looked carefully at her face. His eyes ran on her characteristics. Her HP was critically low. She looked weak, but her look was filled with rage. Ginta shouted sharply, ordering everyone to get back. The girls were surprised to look at, not understanding what was happening. The mother of Hien-chan suddenly rose and roared so that the earth trembled. All instinctively shuddered. She was preparing for an attack. Dragon Girl shocked and asked what happened to her. The hero replied that it was unexpected. He put the sword forward, preparing for battle. The dragon released a powerful flow of fire. Ginta rushed forward, meeting the attack. The girls froze in shock. The Queen closed her face with her hands. The hero used a dark thread to stop the flame, but it was not enough. The voltage increased. A huge pillar of light cut the sky, mixing fire and magical energy. He said it was dangerous, but he still managed to stop her fiery breathing. The girls ran to him, shouting his name. The hero did not understand what happened, looking at her condition. He said that her mother was mad because of medicine, and most likely not even realized what he was doing. Kukina noted that the magic of life has cleansing properties, so it may help. Tot confirmed that this should definitely work. Suddenly, the cello and his people appeared, shouting, asking what they were doing here. Ginta was surprised where they came from, and thought it was a little unexpected. One of the men called them freaks and asked who they were and what they were looking for here. Quinn answered. She hugged Jint and said that they were just a group of fighters for justice who wanted to release the fire dragon. Leet shone angrily that this is not a time for jokes. The cello assumed that they could be traitors who came to steal the dragon. He was approached by a man with a saber and, pointing to Gint, exclaimed that this guy was the same Jinta from Gotcha Storm. Ocello nodded. The man confirmed that he is a dangerous magical fensinger. He said that their comrades in Hin were barely survived after meeting him. Another man noted that now he had a dragon behind his back. Another noted that there is an Elfian with big breasts. Another jokingly added that there is a flat chest nearby. Someone ordered the cage to open with a dragon faster. Others tried to deny. He assured that there is nothing to be afraid, because they have a monster lord, Mrs. Melodis herself. Everyone was surprised. Lisa asked if she was going to tame the Hai-chan mother. The dragon was released from the cage. She looked closely at the characters. She said she was free. Quinva sighed and noted that adults are really very unpredictable. The hero turned his gaze on the cello and his people, and said that they were in fact afraid of her. Ocello turned to the melody. He stated that it was time to submit it, and let the divine punishment come down on them. The girl began to spell, but Draconitya answered instantly. She released a fire stream directly onto Melodis. They shouted on it, trying to save. They shouted that she was burning and asked to bring water. Ginta suspiciously watched what was happening. Stones began to pour from the mountain. The girl in black lost balance, slipped down and landed right in front of the hero. He looked at her. They looked silently at each other. Meldy rose sharply and, without hesitation, rushed to flee. He asked himself if she really fled. Ocello stood stunned, and a huge dragon lifted behind him. He shouted Mrs. I.T. Nellie to wait for her. Someone in a panic ran after a girl. Queen asked in surprise that it was happening at all. The hero only laughed and said he was indifferent. Suddenly, the earth under their feet shake and split. He and Chan had time to pull the Quinn and O and Ginta Leif. The hero sighed and said he would like to return his mother Hien Chan to normal. He then asked Lion if her ability to clean up could help. She replied that from this distance, somewhere 3 to 4 meters can work. He thought it was not so far away. He realized that at such a distance the dragon could easily attack both the tail and claws, not to mention fiery breathing. If the lecta becomes a target, it will not survive. He quickly returned to the Hien-chan. Ginta said it was too dangerous here, so he asked to pick up Life and Quinn. The dragon intervened unexpectedly and stated that Queen would take care of Life. Alpha asked what he has in mind. The hero replied that he would first try to reassure his mother, Hien-chan. The girls were put on the backs of dragons and taken away from Gint. The goddess looked around and said his name quietly. At this time, he had already come into battle with a dragon mom. He grabbed the sword but missed. The dragon sharply waved his wings and took off. Ginta noted that, unlike the Hien-chan, the adult fire dragon has a real advantage in the air. She was much smarter than he expected, and he realized that his attack would not reach the hole. The dragon began to charge a powerful attack, and the hero was surprised that she decided to attack from there. He took his gaze to Hien-chan and girls. He immediately realized that she was targeting them. The dragon's attack rapidly approached the team. Ginta shouted, "Hey I-chan!" The girls looked around. Their eyes were reflected in their eyes. But Hien-chan suddenly straightened her wings and powerfully pushed away from the ground. Looking at Hei-chan, who was flying, he asked in surprise when she learned it. He suggested that she increased her level, destroying goblins and other evil. She landed. Lava was enthusiastically said that it was incredible. Now she can fly. The hero noticed that the dragon was approaching again, and he was happy. He said they would save her mother together. But the dragon again rushed to the girls. The hero exclaimed that it was repeated again. He shouted, asking if everything was fine with the girls. Queen replied that they will cope, and that he should help Hei-chan as soon as possible. At this point, Lita treated her. The hero turned. In the sky, he and Hei-chan evaded her mother's attacks. He noted that his black flame is not strong enough, and to use fire against the dragon is ineffective. He said that in order to strike a sword, you need to get closer. If they can do it, they will have a chance. Queen noted that Hei-chan was beginning to slow down. Lita suggested that she was not used to flying for a long time. The girl confessed that she was not sure whether she could continue to evade her mother's attacks. The hero said I-chan that their moment came. Quinn was surprised by their tactics. Lada said he was about to approach his mother before she flying at him. The girls were worried, believing that they would not have time. But in the next moment, the mother dragon released a powerful fiery breath. Kai and Chang lost balance and began to fall, leaving behind smoke clubs. Her mother, who hammed in the air, fiercely quarreled. Her paws did not touch the ground. Hei-chan fell to the ground and exhaled hard. Leifa immediately assured that everything was fine with her. The Elfian noted that because she was also a fire dragon, the flame could not hurt her. The hero thanked the Hien-chan and said it was all thanks to her. Sleep raised her cane. She said she is now her turn. She would use the magic of purification and healing. Suddenly, crunch came from the rock. The goddess asked what it was. Queen pointed her finger and told her to look. Someone asked if it shifted. The elves assumed that this could happen because of their battle. The goddess shouted in a panic so that everyone would run as soon as possible. Queenie asked where exactly. Lisa suggested hiding in the drawer. Ginta denied sharply. He said that then they would just be trapped without the opportunity to get out. The girl, barely holding back tears, asked what to do. The hero calmly said not to be afraid and stated that he would repel the collapse of his black flames. The Elfian was distrustfully asking if it was possible. He nodded, but advised them just to move away. Then he began to spell, his sword wrapped in thick dark smoke. He realized that it would need even more mana, all mana that he had. He could not afford to retreat, otherwise the situation would become catastrophic. Ginta focused, investing even more, but suddenly a strange voice came in his head. He did not understand who it was, but the words were clear. They became those who control the destruction. Ginta shouted sharply to Pack. He asked who was talking. He said he did not need this vote and ordered him to disappear. The voice insisted, destroying everything. The hero took a step forward. He swung his sword and thundered, ordering his voice to disappear. His strength escaped outside, attracting fragments of rocks. He focused and fired a flow of black energy, forcing the shift to retreat. He looked around and said that all the negative effects in the status had disappeared, so the mother of Hien-chan should soon be fully recovered. She nodded, saying that if so, they should not worry. Hei-chan and the price cheered. The dragon exhaled quietly. The hero and Lada watched how his mother and daughter spoke in their own language. The goddess sighed with relief and said they seemed to feel good. Kazami replied that she understands her baby perfectly. Then the girl turned to the hero and asked if everything would be fine for everyone. He nodded in the affirmative, saying that they came here for that. Hien-chan cried. Ginta gently told her not to cry. Dragons climbed into the sky. Her mother took a human appearance. She said she knew everything that happened here and what she learned about her daughter. Ginta was surprised by her reincarnation skill. Chen watched them with surprise. Pearl remembered how he once promised to find her parents. Lieta said she was glad to see their meeting. The hero turned to the Hien-chan and said that they seemed to be here. The girl lowered her head and wept. She sat on her mother's back sobbing. The hero looked at her. Suddenly, Anna called Gint, saying that she heard that dinner was ready. He was surprised that time was already. Quinva and the hero looked at the covered table, thinking about recent events. Somewhere a quiet sound, similar to the whisper named after the dragon. Ginta asked if she was missing her. He noted that Hien-chan seemed to calm down in the last few days. He realized that he was beginning to understand her better. Before bed, he lay down in his bed. He thought that because they were returning to the city tomorrow, they should rest well. He was surprised that the blanket was a little warm. He suggested that a glow or Quinn could leave a hot water bottle. But, rejecting the blanket, he saw a familiar face. He froze for a moment, and then sighed, saying that everything was clear. The hero was covered with a blanket with her, and said he was warm. Suddenly, it came to what was happening and he shouted her name. The girl had fun. He asked in surprise why she was here. She carelessly replied that they themselves told her that she was her home. She then asked timidly if she could stay with them. He replied that yes, of course she could stay. The girl was glad and hugged him firmly. Suddenly, she noticed something and surprised. She looked at everyone happily as if she had found her place. Quinn was very excited. All warmly greeted her with the words, "Welcome home." She innocently said that her mother explained that they were jerked in the end, and then laying eggs. Everyone froze from shock. The hero froze in place, trying to find at least some words. Quinn, having a breath, said that Hien-chan was very bold. The girl just protected. She waved it, calling it horror. Kazami asked what they were talking about. Everyone suddenly looked in surprise. Quinu asked if it was not accidentally the entrance to the dungeon. Ginta confirmed they arrived faster than expected. Anna said that they have a shortened list of rewards, a limited flow of visitors, and in such conditions it is very difficult to do business. The hero agreed that the situation was really bad here. She mentioned a strong explosion in the warehouse of their supplier, who completely destroyed the goods. Ginta asked the details hard. The winner said it was really sad, and asked how it happened. Anna replied that the causes are unknown, but there are eyewitnesses who can tell more. She said that fortunately, there was no one during the explosion at the warehouse, but all their goods were completely burned. Anna explained that they are not able to hire high-quality specialists now, so they can only entrust the case to them. They are sure that the team is able to defeat Hippo. Ginta said he relied on them. He looked at Leita and confessed that he may be his fault. By the way, he asked if there was something left in this dungeon as it is so close to the city. He believed that this place had to be searched for a long time. She smiled and said that he should be more optimistic. He asked where she knew that there was only one floor here, if no one ever descended below the 7th level. But she replied that she was because she is a goddess. The girl was skeptical about what she was talking about. Ginta caught her in time and told him to be careful. The girl assured that everything was fine with her, and apologized. They continued the way, and Leif looked awkward. She said quietly that she would be jealous. Then she asked, if she fell into the pit, would the owner save her too? Quinn, laying her hands on her chest, reminded that she was able to fly. The hero noted that even the monsters do not appear here. No treasures are also visible. Lieta suggested that there should be another descent and suggested to look more carefully. Quinas suddenly called them to look here. Ginta asked what she found. The Elfian pointed to the inscription and said it was a long-standing letter of spirits. Lada confirmed that she looked like it, and suggested that something important could be written here. Ginta asked if she could read it and asked him to look at him. At this point, the door suddenly opened. Everyone was surprised. Swallow asked how he was able to understand it. Ginta replied that everything is very simple. Everything was said in the inscription. Queen asked if he could really read this letter. She did not believe it and asked where he knew this entry at all. He thought that, of course, he could read it because there were ordinary Japanese hieroglyphs on the plate. It was written that a security guard lives below, and if someone can read this message, then a quadrangular stone should be pressed. At the end it was written, "Good luck." He said they needed to go all the way to the end until they come across a stone. Next will be down. They reached the last floor. Someone asked how many undisclosed chests could be here. The hero said it seems to be a wonderful report, except for one. He had a strange feeling of presence of someone or something. He was convinced that there was someone else here. Aquinas suggested that these could be the same guards mentioned in the inscription. Ginta agreed that he was probably a treasure guard, because as it turned out, it was a den. He asked if it was true. Lyaf categorically denied. She was indignant, saying that what else can the boss be in the dungeon for beginners, and even near the city? Moreover, she assured that even if he is, she would easily gift his ass his new murder technique. Kazami intervened, skeptical of her technique, and noting that she was saying nonsense again. He saw in the characteristic that she had something new, something divine. He became wondering what it was, and what was his description. The girl said that she was obsessed with boxing. She said that the true skill could not be bought. Ginta asked in surprise why she was doing boxing at all. She replied that if necessary, then it was necessary, and asked why he was in general. The hero wondered if she achieved the desired results. The girl sighed and confessed that no. Quinn warned that it is too late. She said something to the lord behind her. The hero cast a surprised look at her. There was a huge guard, as if cut from stone. He lifted his fist and stated in a cold voice that they were violators and should be destroyed. The guard struck a powerful blow. Quinn and Hiai-chan were frightened. The guard straightened after the attack, ready to continue the fight. Ginta appeared because of the rubble. He shouted Lottie to look more closely. He said it was a boss, and asked her to apply his divine blow. The frightened girl exclaimed that he was probably jokes, and asked if it was really serious. Ginta replied that of course, he was joking. The girl warned him to be careful. She suggested that it was most likely one of the techniques of Bagon's spiritual craft. The hero realized that the guard could regenerate, which made him even more interesting opponent. He firmly stated that he would still destroy him. Ginta and Hii-chan in a dragon form simultaneously rushed to the attack on the guard. Life asked if all the goals. She received the answer that it seems like everything is fine. But the next moment, the Hien-chan flew back and crashed into the rock. The girls exclaimed her name. She took the human form again, holding her head and softly shaking. Swallow immediately ran to her. Quinn said that they had a very difficult enemy. The hero added that the place is too tight for battle. She asked if she really hit her head or just fell. The Elfian said that Ginta was clearly inferior. The goddess mentioned the possible revival of the guard. Quinn stroked hard that if it continues, they may have serious problems. The hero asked the guard if he was a stubborn guy and added that if he was not going to seem, then it would be his last chance. Leda asked if he had a plan. Ginta, without answering, hit the sword on the ground, preparing the next attack directly on the guard. He quickly began to apply a series of blows on all sides without letting the opponent recover. The hero told the guard that if he is not reborn now, then he would fly into small pieces. But the ghoul stood in place and without responding, repeated the words of destruction again. Ginta lifted a pebble from the ground and asked what it was. He asked what was a spiritual craft, and noted that Leda had mentioned it before. The goddess explained that, as the name implies, these are tools and devices created by spirits. Queen asked the hero if he was familiar with the legends of past eras. He honestly replied that he was absolutely not. She said it was an old legend about the hero and the evil deity that every child knows in her village. Gint was suddenly climbed into the golem. Leda asked what he was doing. He just smiled and replied that he had an idea. Then he put the found stone in a special deepening in the golem and said, "Wake up." The ghoul suddenly opened his eyes. The goddess asked if he was confident in her actions, and reminded that the ghoul could begin to revive again. The hero calmly replied that everything is under control. He decided to take a test and thought about how to do it. Returning to the golem, he announced that he gave him the first order. He said, "Lift the Quinu high, high, high." The guard without hesitation took the girl in his arms and began to lift it up. It was puzzled without understanding what was happening. Suddenly she screamed loudly. Leta asked Jint why he obey him. He smiled and explained that he rewrote something. He wiped the text on the plate, crossing the team of destruction of violators.